Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. It is a beautiful day today, and we have been looking forward to these beautiful days so that we can finally finish up the outside of the house. And other than the siding, we only have a few things left to do on the house. So we have the fascia, that's the vertical board that's gonna go around that overhang and on the ends of the rafters. And we're gonna be doing that out of cedar. Just cover everything up and make it look nice. Next we have the soffits, and those will be the horizontal pieces that go underneath the overhangs and cover it up on that side. And finally we just have to finish up our metal roof. We still have the rake trim to put on and the chimney hole to cut out. And once those are done, it's really just siding from there. And today we want to start out with the fascia. When we milled the wood for the front porch, we actually did mill fascia for it. We weren't sure if we were going to use it, but now we want to go back and grab that piece, see if we can find it, and clean it up, and then just go ahead and install it on the front porch. And it'll also be a good trial run for doing the rest of the house. And we also want to start milling some cedar and getting prepared to put it on the house. So let's get started. All right, so if we just have to figure out where we put that fascia, it's somewhere over here. It's not over here. This is our original wood pile, and we have all kinds of stuff from when Alan came the first time, and all that stuff is dry and ready to go, so we'll have some fun stuff. There's some walnut and some poplar. Got the hackberry from last time. There it is. That's it. It's seen better days, that's for sure. So you can see that this cedar has just turned gray. It's been sitting out in the weather. It hasn't really been sitting in a pile or anything, just getting rained on. I want to show you guys this because we do this a lot. It's really cool and surprising that when you run this through the planer and just shave off that top layer of wood, how brand new the piece of wood looks after. And I think this is a really good piece to see that transformation. So all gray and dull now. Let's see what happens when we run it through the planer. All right, well, we ended up getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, and maybe some of you guys were already thinking this. We just completely overlooked that our entire porch, we did rough cut. And when I say rough cut, this is a piece of rough cut cedar. It's what it looks like right when we take it off the mill. It still has the texture left behind from the sawmill, that bandsaw blade. And we just planed it, and it completely changes the way the wood looks. It makes it a lot more smooth, takes away all that texture. It's kind of more reflective of the light, and it also makes it take up stain differently. So there's the rough cut, there's the smooth. And in addition to that, we also noticed that this board has a split going down it, so we might not have even used it anyway. But we still do have this usable piece of cedar for something else, and we want to do a little experiment real quick just to see how the stain takes up on this, to see what it looks like. We were already going to mill cedar for the rest of the fascia anyway, so one more piece isn't going to make much of a difference. And what our plan was going to be for the fascia was to mill it a little bit thicker than what we were planning on using, and then planing down just one side. And we'll put that one side where you can't see it and leave the rough cut side on the outside. So let's do an experiment, see how this stain looks on the plain side. And then we'll load up some logs on the mill and start milling our fascia. For the record though, this board did turn out beautiful when we ran it through the planer. We were just so focused on this gray part, and it's gray because it's been sitting out in the sun, but it also kind of has this waxy white mold that's been getting on a lot of our wood that's been around the property. So we were running it through the planer to try to get that layer off.
But it turns into a good opportunity because we can actually do a stain right now where we have what happens when cedar is a year old and been just sitting out in the sun and we go over it with stain, what happens with heartwood, and then what happens with sapwood. And so one of the things about this board is it actually came off the main beam. It was the piece right before we cut our main beam for our front porch out. So it actually wasn't really even an ideal piece of wood. That's why we didn't put it up right away. This will give us an idea of in Eastern Red Cedar, when we cut our fascia, do we need to get it all out of heartwood? If we have sapwood there, sometimes that contrast looks good. But the question is, how does all of this take up stain? So we're gonna see this rough cut cedar is gonna take up stain different than the sapwood that's right here, or the heartwood. And then this down here is sapwood that has this rough cut. So you're gonna see in this one area everything we need to know about staining it. So if it's sapwood and it's rough cut, it'll take up enough stain. It may take up enough stain so it looks fine. So it'll tell us a lot. It turns out to be a really helpful mistake.
Also, complete side note, but look at all this sawdust that came off, and it smells so good.
It's better than sawdust. It's shavings.
Shavings, that's the word I was looking for, shavings.
There's a little bit left over from our porch. So here we go. Let's see. Oh yeah. Yeah, actually that's not bad at all. It's not what I thought. Even planed, it looks pretty good. I'm surprised.
Maybe we'll decide we do want to put a plain fish.
Yeah, we might. It definitely takes up the stain a little more. But you know what? Honestly, isn't that bad on any of it. I mean, this contrast looks good too. It's kind of crazy. I didn't expect that. This is more brown. It has like a brownish color. But it'll be interesting to see when this soaks in if we just let it cure for a little while. We do that.
Leave it sitting out here in the sun.
And one of the problems with this particular tree was all of this. It had, and we saw that up here, it had so many different knots, which we didn't mind.
And you can see what happens with the knots.
They turn almost black. I mean, really and truthfully, now that I see this, the sapwood doesn't look that bad. Like, it's not what I remembered. Remember when we did our tests, we were just using a really small piece, and we felt like it wasn't absorbing it up very good. If we come back over, like for example, this would be equivalent to someone doing their fence. If you had a cedar fence in your backyard and it's turned all gray because it wasn't ever stained, and you came back with this ready seal, you would still get, it does have, the natural cedar has a little bit of that orange, and it certainly takes what was a gray weathered fence and makes it look a lot better. But when you look at that compared to putting it on cedar that hasn't been aged at all and hasn't been weathered at all, it has even a more red appearance. And it may be because this one's really dry too. So that's the other thing we'll have to think about, is how dry is our fascia before we stain it. And
I think I know what I want to do.
What?
I want to ask the people. So here's what I want you guys to do. I want you to leave a comment today, even if you're someone who doesn't normally leave comments on YouTube videos. We're gonna mill this lumber today, but we're not gonna put it up yet. I want you to leave a comment if we should plane the boards or if we should leave it rough cut. And that goes for all the fascia, because I mean, who knows, it might look really good planed, but we could also just stick to what we've done here. That's what it looks like, and it still looks amazing. So drop a comment today and let us know. I love the way that smells.
I know, that's great. And the planer makes such great shavings. It's just, I mean, there is some dusty stuff. You don't have to get all the dusty stuff down there. Just get the big ones.
There's a couple things we're usually looking at when we're picking out a log. The main one is probably the taper of the log, because how much you can get out is driven by the small end of the log. So that's one thing. With cedar, we're always looking at the branches. This big one right here just has branches all over it, but these small ones, there's branches on it, but they're kind of more dinky, so it might not be as big of a deal when we get to the wood.
Yeah, and then the other thing are inclusions, like where the bark is down.
Yeah, let's see if we can find one. Yeah, like right here. You can see the tree kind of folds in on itself, and sometimes that goes all the way down to the center of the tree, and you never really know until you actually mill it to find out. But this one, I mean, it's straight, doesn't seem to have too many branches, and it does have this small one at the bottom here, so we'll find out. But yeah, let's give this one a try. It's that heavy. We can just pick it up.
It's just not down that way far enough. It couldn't have been more awkward.
That is a big 6x6. And this is not for our fascia. This is actually for our neighbor, Eric. He's been helping us out a lot, moving stuff around. We told him we'd mill him some 6x6s for something that he's working on. This one is actually one of the better ones we've done. It is very clear of knots for the most part until we get down on this end. So yeah, that's a really great post. I like it. All right, well that log ended up being another bust. great lumber and still usable stuff. We actually think we're going to use these as some posts to put in the ground to hold up some hammocks, so that should be fun. The board wasn't wide enough. We need 8.5 inches for our fascia. So we just gotta get another one, get another log and try again. So we're about to pull up this next log. It's always hard to tell with these cedars. This one could possibly work. It's wide enough on the end, but you just never know what you're gonna hit inside. So there's all kinds of stuff that's going on with cedar. Let's load this one up, try again, and if not, we'll just have to try to find another log. Salted cedar. Okay, so we've made the cant, and the cedar is full of all kinds of surprises. We had some ants coming out of it. We hit some rot. We hit some big gaps. You can see how deep that is in there.
Yeah, it's actually inclusion, because that's bark. The bark folds
Oh,
on
yeah,
itself.
Yeah, so there you go.
And if I flip this so you can see the other side, you can see an example
Right.
of this right here, but that one was just inside, and at some point it had closed itself up. So I think at this point our best option is to go ahead and cut this off where we get into our heartwood. Let's go ahead and level this last side off and then see what we can pull out of it. 2x4s, coaster material, maybe some 1x3s or something like that. But unfortunately with cedar, you kind of have no idea what you're doing. It's gonna be great when we get back on that pine again. So we were spoiled for so long with the pine, where every log is just exactly what you see.
So yeah, this is log number 3 now, and still no fascia. And we do want to get some good wood for that. We want that nice heartwood, because this stuff just kind of deteriorates the sapwood. We might be able to get another post for Eric out of this. We'll see. So we'll have that. And then yeah, like Dad said, we've been collecting all these scrap pieces so that I can have some stock material for doing coasters. It's one of the things I want to be doing as we mill logs. I want to start collecting just some material so that eventually I can do a whole run of coasters for you guys. So we're going to continue milling this and see what we can get. All right, well that last log ended up being a bust. It didn't have a 6x6 in it, and it also didn't have our fascia. And on top of that, we all found all kinds of rot inside. That's to be expected with cedar. You never really know what you're gonna get. And so we just decided to salvage as much as we could. So we just have various project woods. We got some 1-inch planks, and one thing we like to do is make ring tosses. We've done a bunch of those. So we can make some ring tosses with that. And then we also got a lot, and this isn't even all of it, we got a lot of thin material that we can use with our laser engraver. And so cedar engraves really well, and we can also cut this really easily. One example of that is the coasters I was talking about earlier. I could probably make 100 coasters right now if I wanted to. I might take some of my off time and just start making coasters for you guys. And maybe once I have a box of them all ready to go, I can put them up for sale. But our neighbor Eric just stopped by, and it's looking like he might have some free time with the excavator to help us out this weekend. And we have a couple other projects that we're preparing for that will be great to have some help with. So we're gonna go talk about some of those projects and then start cleaning up. Okay, so right before the tornado passed through, actually the day that the tornado passed through, we were working on this, and I don't think we've shown it in a video yet, But this is where we're gonna be putting our solar kiln. So this is gonna be an 8x20 kiln. We'll put in some wood coming off the sawmill and we'll be able to dry out our wood and kill all the insects in it. We had already started doing some grading on this, but the day we were doing it with our tractor, it was really muddy and hard to do. And Eric said that he could help us get this graded. We also want to change the angle a little bit to make it a little more pointed towards the sun because it is a solar kiln. And then we have another project over here by the house. So this is the area where things just get placed that they don't have a place for. And we've cleaned this up before and it has gotten a lot better, but since we did the metal roof, we have a lot of metal roof and our rake trim sitting here, and also all those laths that we didn't end up using, and then just some other random scrap pieces, lawnmowers. And so we need to get this area cleared out because we're planning to do a 12x24 slab right here for a future workshop and also a temporary storage area for a lot of the stuff that we have inside the house. We basically want to move everything inside the house that we've been using to build it inside a different building so that we can start finishing the inside. And so we think it'd be great to build an actual building that we can move stuff into, and then eventually it can become another workshop or a garage out here. And so if we can get that slab poured while the weather's still good, in the fall and the winter, we can actually mill a bunch of the pine that's in the log yard and make it all out of wood that we mill ourselves. So we get that poured, do some milling, just put together a cut list and just start stacking stuff up. And so if we have everything ready to go, we should be able to knock it out really quick. Just like this tool shed, we put that up in 10 days. And so basically the size of what we're building is exactly like one of the additions that we added on the shed. So it'll just be like that, copied and pasted right here. All right, well, we started getting some of the metal moved over and we're gonna continue on this weekend, get everything cleaned up. But I gotta go edit, so that's gonna be a wrap for this video. I wanna give a big thank you to everyone that has liked and subscribed, and also thank you to everyone that backs us over on Patreon. We really appreciate your support, and we'll see you guys next time.